Alex Answer here, coming to you from Southern Colorado, May 25th, 2015. And I believe that what we're seeing in the news with some of these cases where mothers are killing their male children, female as well, but I'm in particular seeing a rise in stories relating to dark feminine rising. And other stories involving people ripping off their clothes, male and female, and doing pretty incredibly insane things in subways. Why subways? Why have we seen so many crazy things in subways? That's a question one person can ask. But I will say that I've seen a rise in this behavior over the course of the last couple of years. And we have entered the last solar cycle the last couple of years. You know, you can look at certain ghost hunting groups out there that strategize. And when they go out to record certain things, a lot of them do it on the eve or the night of a geomagnetic storm. There's something about the electromagnetic spectrum relating to not only solar flares, but also Wi-Fi, cell phone towers. I've seen a lot of people talking to themselves in libraries, which are pretty well known for having lightning speed Wi-Fi. Most of them, that is, except some in pretty far out rural communities. So there's this term electromagnetic pollution. It's this band. Electromagnetism is both natural and unnatural. And there's something about electromagnetism that has something to do with the spirit world. And when people are out of balance, unhealthy, ungrounded, and eating foods that weaken their field, weaken their own electromagnetism, also known as aura, and people are polluting their minds, weakening other aspects of themselves through drinking the wrong things, eating the wrong things. They're easier to control when their energy system is compromised. We're seeing a lot of people today in this day and age with their energy systems compromised, whether they be in rural communities or cities, but from the perspective of the observer, the one perceiving this reality, either you or me, the individual, we can, speaking for myself, come across a lot more of that dark spiritual energy in the cities because there's simply more people that are under a certain form of hypnosis and experiencing a certain sense of spiritual bankruptcy. So one of my passions for nature comes from the ability to be separate from some of that madness. And I can feel it. And I can pick up on it. And I'm noticing patterns in the last couple of days. It comes in waves. It's cyclical. It's not some linear point A to point B, something from the Western mind. And there's a lot of linearists in today's society that only look at reality through a black and white reality, through the lens of the Western mind, without understanding the cyclical nature of things, the highs and lows, the ups and downs. And so there are periods, and I think some of you that are older that may have studied some of these things a long time ago may have noticed other periods in other cities where it seemed like people were coming unhinged or a little possessed, where things seemed a little demonic. And I suspect, and I feel I'm sharing that in this video, that some of the stuff comes in waves. Possessions, certain forms of psychosis. Now, there is a link with schizophrenia and geomagnetic storms. There's something about the veil being lifted at this time when you have a thinning Earth's magnetic field, when you have other changes taking place with magnetic north moving, something I've mentioned many times before in reference to changes in the weather, but there's something changing within psyche, the psyche of mankind, perhaps on a collective scale. You know, we have magnetite in our brain. It's what pigeons and birds use to travel this planet using the Earth's magnetic field. Well, that hardware is built into humans as well. So there are people out there going, there's something seems to be happening. It's like we're on the cusp of something. It's like some portals opened and a whole world of evil has been let through. And I agree. And I think that the changes that we're seeing with the sun, with the magnetic field, are playing a big role in that. And it's not entirely negative. It's not just one-sided. It's not just about the cycle being about some pit of hell opening. There's also awareness opening. When something opens, a lot of things come through with it. And so people on this planet that have already been in somewhat of a trance, who are open to possession, who are doing certain substances, although I don't think you have to be a drug addict to be someone that can be possessed. But it can help. It can help those entities possess that human body when they have someone so intoxicated, so out of their mind, so obliviated, that they don't even realize that there's another influence that's just stepping into their place, going, okay, all right, I've got a human form for a little bit, it's time to party. And I have seen so many people in Portland, which is at a certain part of the planet where I think has a high concentration of a certain spiritual, wicked energy, especially in today's day and age. And it's manifesting through society, through people playing their roles in the manufactured gender war, which is really coming from a dark, anti-human place, a dark spiritual place. So there are many changes that we've seen within society that seem to dovetail along these scientific admissions of major changes taking place in our universe. NASA, years ago, announced their discovery of the holes in the Earth's magnetic field. They were confirmed by the European Space Agency. This was done years ago. By the way, these are holes that are like invisible. They have a hard time finding them. They open and close and change and go to a different spot. You know, this is some, I mean, that's the wild card stuff as to, you know, a situation that could allow a certain amount of solar plasma, solar radiation to come in through the Earth's magnetic field and create just enough havoc for massive power outages and failures across the planet. It's all very possible, but what could some of that stuff be doing to human beings for the better, or we could say for the worse? What part is some of that playing in evolution, and what part is some of that playing in full-on demonic possession? This sun that is shining down on me this morning, about 8 o'clock in the morning, there are many forms of life that need that sun to live. Not all those forms of life are necessarily what we would call the most peaceful or loving, honorable or honest. Some of those forms of life that get their life from the sun take life from others. Those forms of life are both on this planet and elsewhere. So not all things that come about from the sun itself are what we would describe to be enlightened, holy. Some would prefer to use the word ascended, which has become a real buzzword. I steer away from ascended or ascension because of all the disinformation today in the New Age movement and the actions of those that steer constantly towards those terms. And oftentimes we see the externalization of responsibility in today's spiritual movements. We see a lot of, this brings us back to the linearists. We see people still, expecting and predicting and telling, which is lying, others that all these things are going to shift by a certain point in time, certain negative entities will be removed from the planet. It's like some linear trajectory. And in reality, what I'm feeling is a cycle. And mankind goes through cycles where in certain parts of the planet, certain dense population cities, it looks like a lunatic asylum. The women look crazy, the men look crazy, the women look sick, the men look sick. There is, an air of greed in the air, of lust, of perversion, of hate of the other, of hate of thyself. There is warring within the families. Things are in disarray. We're in a cycle of time, and we're in an epoch of mankind that is struggling with certain things, socially, politically, spiritually. And what we're going through in our world, in our lives, what you're seeing geopolitically is a result of something else somewhere else. We're mirroring that reality, but many of us have been duped into believing that this is the ultimate reality, where nothing further could be from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. Well, we see a fascination with the zombie apocalypse in pop culture. We see a fascination with horror films. We see that there is something in the collective psyche of mankind that's able to interpret certain potential possibilities. We see movies like Jupiter Ascending, I believe, which I've heard about the movie and the plot, but I haven't seen it myself. There are movies like They Live. Of course, I did a YouTube video with a guy named Ollie, and we were going over different allegories in Hollywood. The Terminator films, RoboCop, Conan the Barbarian with the shapeshifter scene, you know, the snake people symbolism, embedding themselves in royalty and controlling mankind. This was the arch nemesis of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Conan the Barbarian and Destroyer. You know, it's in Hollywood, it's in the psyche, it's in the literature, it's in the history of mankind. Separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, mankind has written about this other side, this matrix, and the parasitic forces that are feeding on the evil that man and woman do. Well, today, in this day and age of instantaneous technology, information, the internet, but technologies that really, in a great way, can take us out of our body and away from nature, instead of truly embetter our lives and embetter the lives of others that are suffering around this planet, technology is used instead as a weapon. And people in this day and age get in these technological flying machines to kill and destroy people they've never met in other countries. And no one's connecting the dots with troops coming back after killing and other negative things that have happened in this country even before 9/11, just dealing with the colonization of this country, what was done to the Native Americans. You know, they would hang them by their genitalia and skins, both male and female. Can you imagine being a male or female, part of a tribe or a group of conquerors that are actually able to sit down, have a steak, you know, have a little wine while people are actually being hung around you? You don't think that brings a little bit of evil to the land that perhaps we're standing on? I've always felt those spirits in the rural aspects of parts of Colorado, parts of Oregon rather, to correct myself, but I can feel it here too. Where one can feel the history of bloodshed in the air from the past. And what I've been able to determine and see and feel is that some of these places in nature that I visited, ironically, where there's been a lot of massacres of Native Americans and people imprisoned, the location I'm at including many of the other locations that you've seen me at, they've all been like these historic sites, actually, of a bunch of Indian tribes just being slaughtered. And for some reason, in my travels, without even knowing that these things have happened in these parts of the world, Portland included, where I was in the yurt included, many places in New Mexico included, many places here in Colorado, the place I was visiting in Idaho included, as well as the places that I visited or passed through in Utah. And I can see how when people use intoxicants and when they are greedy and angry and they do not have their spiritual center, I see how people are almost affected by evil, wicked spirits, something. Wherever it's coming from, perhaps themselves. Some could say their lower selves. I've seen how in certain environments where people bring certain energies and they don't respect the land that they're on and they don't remember those that came before them, I see bad luck fall upon them, while others that have respect for the land, have respect for the spirits, and want to contribute something positive to this planet, they may have a different experience in certain places on the planet where certain historical things have taken place. Ultimately, mankind is suffering now, and a certain percentage of the human population is afflicted by this, what seems to be this global possession, which is not so much outside of themselves, but something from inside themselves. We are not I am not, in this video, trying to externalize any blame whatsoever. That's what some people interpret when they hear people talk about the potential that there's something far greater taking place within the collective psyche of mankind. This isn't about relinquishing sovereignty or responsibility. It is absolutely all about taking back responsibility, and being accountable for one's actions. There are a lot of fools out there in this day and age that don't understand that when you go and you use pollutants in your body, or when you put them in the ground and you do harm to others, it does come back to you. Now, I would say that there are certain people out there in this world that are doing well right now in the war business, and there are certain people that seem to be doing well that are serving that system, that are earning a paycheck, that have their health, that have their complexion, that have their tits, that have their health, that have that ass. Ooh, they've got a whole array of makeup. Ooh, they've got a sports car. All these things are illusionary forms of wealth. And many of these people, haven't necessarily sold their soul, but they've definitely leased out their soul. They've given away their power towards this thing in order to earn this arbitrary thing, money, materialism. So in a way, they allow themselves to be consumed by the spirit of greed, the spirit of deception, and much of the world right now has been co-opted by this artificial money system. It's contaminated relationships, it's contaminated the minds and spirits and bodies of many men and women, many women and men, and we can see a lot more of this in major cities today, where we're forced to live alongside more people than we would in a more rural existence or environment. The reason why, by the way, a lot of people allow themselves to stay stuck is because they haven't addressed their own either attachments or addictions to what the system provides. And true ascension for me, if I had to use that word, means going above those man-made systems. Someone truly on the ascension path isn't going to shut down other people because of their ideas, because of their awareness levels growing in areas that they personally may not be able to comprehend. So these are things that we need to realize, that, as I wrap up here, a very complex subject that I'll come back to later. There is a collective shift in consciousness that is taking place within the body of mankind, within the consciousness of mankind. But it's more of an invasion. It's more of an infection. There are many beautiful aspects of society and humanity that we should recognize and pay tribute to and respect that came before us. There are some very perverted spiritual teachings that are around us right now that are disrespecting the elders and the past, that are heralding the world that has become of today. And I warn thee against such thinking. And ultimately, the lives of women in the past, in many ways, were empowered, and the lives of women today are very much clipped of their feminine energy, clipped of their true essence, and I feel so bad for some of the women that have no idea what's going on in today's society, that are forced into these slave jobs, that are fully taken away from nature, that are not in a positive situation where a good man is going to be trying to court them or bring them into his life, because so many men have been conditioned to either hate women or fear women, or have been hurt by women, so they've gone their own way. It is so very important that people understand that the romantic world of man and woman has been infected, and it was not always like this. It was not always like this. And the past of the entire world is not one big story about man controlling woman. There is responsibility on the part of both men and women that need each other, that came from each other, that complete each other. We complete each other. We don't need to control each other. We don't need to dominate each other. But man and woman collectively on an individual level, we have to come together and start to care for each other and let go of the anger, let go of the animosity, be able to receive love, be able to give love without being afraid that somehow being loving is going to hurt us. A lot of men and women, but especially in the city, a lot of women. I've seen it firsthand and I've shared on this channel. A lot of them have a lot of deep spiritual work to do with trust and being able to love again, because they themselves have been deeply spiritually attacked simply by being in this world. There are not enough quality teachers on this planet explaining the real predicament that we're in on this planet. There are far too many charlatans and people that are involved in boosting other people's ego, as well as lining their own pocketbooks, telling people that we have arrived, we are the ones we've been waiting for. In a way, that's true, but that was said by the Hopis. There are people that have misinterpreted that saying, and they're trying to say we are the collective shift in consciousness for the better. We are the ones to follow. Being aware of certain things is negative. And there are people that have brought in toxic thinking, superstitious thinking into their minds and have misinterpreted these lies for spiritual teachings. So we're in a day and age where there are many people that are seeking the spiritual path, but many of them have ended up in these hamster wheels, never wondering why they're finding not understanding why they're not becoming happy, even though they've got the guy, they've got the car, they've got the house, or they've got the woman, they've got the stuff they thought would make them happy when they use the law of attraction to manifest it. But yet there's still an emptiness. They were able to manifest something for themselves, but yet here they are in a high-rise in downtown LA with their large New Age bookshelf about manifesting things and sitting in the lotus position, or maybe they're in Portland and they're looking at how beautiful they are with their expensive creams and all organic moistures, but yet there's something missing in their lives, in their relationships, and in their soul. And that's something that's missing, can never be replaced by something materialistic or the perfect mate in your bed, on top of you or underneath you. It just doesn't work that way. I'm going to close here. We have work to do on this planet. And a lot of that work has to do with shining the light on some of these creatures that are taking our world by storm. Because some of us picked this mission, some of us were born to do what we're doing. And that is to say and do the right things that can help contribute to a better world, instead of assuming that we can just take the way out and party like it's 1999. I'm Alex Ansary. This has been a conversation about spiritual entities that have been attacking the consciousness of humanity, and reminding everyone, of course, that basic human love and affection is the ultimate antidote for the spiritual sickness over mankind.